Howdy, howdy. Welcome on into the pre-show before the free show. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into an uneventful episode of the show. Just boring.
Nothing happened.
Relative. I mean, this is like the off season for us.
Mm-hmm.
In so many ways. It was a big weekend for us. Texas football tonight had big doings.
We had so many games going to overtime.
You had a lot of you were that was the best possible like proof of concept of the show.
110%.
Is like high stakes games, almost all of them close. And the ones that like weren't close, you guys, all due respect to those teams, you just kind of quit paying attention to.
We had
check in every once in a while, but like
we had a triple box up of games that were all within a point of each other, kicking field goals at the very end of the night, and we were able to watch all three of them at once.
Yeah, that rocks.
It rocked.
Over on the Bally side, we had Lake Travis and Vandergrift.
Mm-hmm.
Lake Travis wins by a very ticket-friendly score of 13-10. It's the fifth time I've called a game for Bally. It was myself and Craig Way on the call. It's the fifth time. It is not just the first one-score game. It's not just the first because Lake Travis kicked a field goal in the waning moments to win the game. Not just like my first nail biter, my buzzer beater basically. Not just my first one-score game. That's the first game that I've done for Bally within 21 points.
Sounds like you're the problem.
Before that, the closest game I had called was the Carthage-Gilmer game last year, which was, I believe, 35-14 was the final.
At least you weren't on the call for Carthage-Gilmer the year before when it was 70-14.
Hey, that was a fun first 5 minutes.
No, it sure was.
14
You're not
nothing
wrong.
Gilmer. It's fun. It's fun first 5 minutes. But yeah, so it was fun to be involved in that. It did feel like you were playing with live ammunition, but like it's funny when you prepare. You always prepare for what do I have in case I need to fill 2 quarters, of just talking about whatever. Now, I knew Craig and I would not have a problem with that because it's first round of the playoffs.
Right.
But we didn't need any of it. We just got to talk about the game.
Man, there is nothing better than a person being on air that you don't use most of your notes. That is the best possible case scenario.
If you're able to throw 90% of it in the garbage.
Yes.
You know,
it's weird because you sit there and you prep for it for a full week and you put all these hours of hard work into it, and it's like, dude, the best broadcast is when I do not have to use any of it.
Yeah, because the game takes care of itself.
Yes.
Exactly. And then I hopped in Craig's truck and we drove real fast.
As one does with Craig Way.
Back to the studio, so we missed the first segment of High School Scoreboard Live, but we were on for the second segment. Mm-hmm. So we drove real fast.
Yeah, supersonic speed, one might say.
Have you ridden with Craig?
Yes.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I have not ridden.
You haven't ridden with Craig? But you
haven't weg.
You haven't ridden with Craig?
You sounded like a toddler there.
You haven't ridden in Craig's truck?
I have not, no.
It's like buckle your seatbelt. Mm-hmm. He's a very safe driver, also a very rapid driver. But no, we called the game remotely. We called the game via the cloud from the studio, which was interesting. I've done that before.
At least you didn't have to drive all the way down to Austin to do it this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very weird.
Last year you drove to Austin, which is three and a half hours, depending on where you're going in Austin.
We were like
you
downtown
could have
Austin.
just gone 2 hours to the actual game you were
to
calling.
East, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Although this one's wild because Craig obviously lives in Austin.
Yeah.
And so he drove from Austin, his house in Austin, to Dallas to call a game in Austin.
Makes perfect sense.
And technology and all of that fun stuff. Shrug. I don't know. They don't pay me to think. Hit the theme, Expo.
Well, that's good.
Pickle! Hit the arrow sign. Yes, y'all. From the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Mothership here in beautiful Lewisville, Texas, it is Texas Football Today, a show that's pretty fired up about football. My name's Greg Tepper. I'm the managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football magazine, TexasFootball.com, a corresponding website. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. Whether you're watching us live, TexasFootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all the places, or just listen to the podcast, which you can subscribe to on the podcast vendor of your choice. Either way, thank you for doing your part to support your local mediocre internet show. I am sitting over there at the helm today, making us sound good. She is the Duchess of the Dorks. She's our executive producer, Miss 915. She's Ashley Pickle.
Hi, friends. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. It's a big Monday.
Big Monday.
They call it Big Monday. We should, you know what? We should copyright that. Big Monday.
I agree.
We're the first people to ever call it Big Monday.
When our social media and digital director, Will Wilkerson, walked in today, he had very much gotten a haircut, and so I went, oh, big haircut.
And what did I say?
And Tepper said,
thank you.
No longer have to call him Big Tuna.
Thank you. We were very
we're not
much,
usually clicking, but Monday morning, like the first thing that was said was instant click.
We were very much the meme of you being Dwayne Wade throwing the ball.
And then you were LeBron like this. Very much.
Today.
Right off the bat.
Today is Monday, November 13th, 2023. 10 days to Thanksgiving.
You know what I thought about this morning, speaking of clicking? Tomorrow, I'll be exactly a week out from Turkey Collection Day.
Ooh.
I'm so excited. So excited.
We've
I gotta pick up the bird on Tuesday.
My mother-in-law and I have had we've had our negotiations.
Okay,
They were cordial. They were I think they were
Peaceful.
very peaceful, and I think very productive.
Okay.
And we've negotiated the menu.
Nice.
We'll have that on our Thanksgiving Spectacular next week. Happy birthday to Meta World Peace. It is episode 1692. On today's show, folks, big show. Big show.
Big Monday.
Back half of the show, there was some news from College Station. We're going to talk about Jimbo Fisher, now former Texas A&M football coach. What went right, what went wrong, why this has happened, where they go from here. We'll have a whole segment on that. Before that, we're going to be joined by the head coach of the Shepherd Pirates, Coach Miles Robison, because Shepherd, you hear about this, folks? Shepherd is through to the area round.
Let's go.
They have won a playoff game for the first time since 1967. Let that sink in.
That's crazy.
The sink is knocking on the door. Let that sink in. 1967. We'll talk with Coach Miles Robison of those Shepherd Pirates coming up here in just a moment. And then, but before that, we're going to have Monday Morning Fallout, where we will overreact to all things football across the Lone Star State. Do we have first four through the door?
We do. I'm yelling at Matthew in the comments. Sorry. Let's see. It was jersey number 69, Coach Terry Crawford.
They're through the area round.
Big jiggly water balloons. Are they through the area
They're
round?
through the title
and
game.
Zill 0678. Oh my God, what a first four for you.
It's big week.
That's
big week.
insane.
You know what?
Big Monday.
It's Big Monday. What do we say? It's Big Monday. Copyright that. Pickle! Hit the air. It's time for Monday Morning Fallout. Monday Morning Fallout. Of course, when we overreact to the football weekend, and it was a playoff football weekend, so there's plenty to overreact to. Now, off the top, I'm not talking about Jimbo Fisher in this segment. We're gonna have a whole segment devoted to it. I don't want to give him give that story one part of a multi-pronged segment. We got a whole segment later in the show. So if you're waiting for Jimbo Fisher, you have to wait till the back half of the show. Okay. My opening thought: the right amount of chaos. 352 UIL Texas high school football playoff games scattered across the state. 352. And the first round sometimes can be a bit snoozy. It can be a little wake me up when September ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, we had our fair amount of blowouts, right?
Yep.
We had our fair amount of blowouts. We had, teams that went out there, took care of their business, got up and went out. What's interesting is that on Thursday, I thought we had a ton of near misses.
Mm-hmm.
Like a ton of teams that you look up and you go, huh. Like, for example, I believe Anna was in a real dogfight with Wilmer Hutchins for a long time. I believe North Shore went to halftime with Deer Park at 14-7.
Yep. Before
they pulled away. Right. There were a couple of others, like contenders, like statewide contenders.
Allen and Louisville were super close the entire time.
Yeah. We had a lot of near misses. We also had what I would deem to be the right amount of chaos. You had a fair number of upsets, if you would. Some of them upsets, some of them not. Little River Academy over Hitchcock is probably the biggest one. Mm-hmm. That is a legit state championship contender going down the first round. For Hitchcock, unfortunately for them, first of all, I think you give a ton of credit to Little River Academy. I told you on the picks.
Yeah.
I told you on the picks. I said Little River Academy is a dangerous team. Now, I picked Hitchcock. I'm not here to tell you that was right.
Right.
What I'm here to tell you is that I tried to warn you that Little River Academy is not some pushover. And they came to play, and for Hitchcock, some of the issues that had cropped up throughout the course of the year, line play, defense that had a tendency to give up big plays, and special teams issues came home to roost. You had that. you did lose another team that was a widespread pick to win the region in Austin Vandegrift.
Mm-hmm.
You lost a defending state finalist in the first round of the playoffs. Now, they lost to Lake Travis. I don't know if I would categorize that necessarily as an upset. I think Vandegrift was the favorite, but I think it would be too far to call it an upset. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But you had other games across the state of Texas that really shook things up. Now, in the 6-man ranks, you had a decent number of them. Bront beat Rising Star. That's a stunner. That's a stunner. Chester, this was a Saturday game. Chester beat Medina. That's a stunner. Amarillo Tascosa wakes up and beats El Paso del Valle. Perryton beats Fort Stockton. That was a 9-1 Fort Stockton team. We're going to talk about their Perryton quarterback here in a moment. And then you also had
Cedar Hill and Weiss.
We'll get to that.
Holy cow.
We'll get to that.
I thought the app was wrong.
You also had, in the span of 30 minutes, 3 of the 5 highest scoring games in the state all year in the 11-man ranks go final, and 3 of the top 4 highest scoring playoff games ever.
All time.
Wolfforth Friendship 87, El Paso Eastwood 58. That's the 5th highest scoring game this season. Panhandle 93, Tahoka 54. That's the 4th highest scoring game this season.
We talked to Matt Stepp at halftime of that one, and we were like, "Oh my!" Nick even asked him. He goes, "Hey, what's the highest scoring playoff game of all time?
Yeah.
Like, do you think you can beat it?" He got darn close, and then a game went even further than that.
Hooks 92, Edgewood 57. That's the 3rd highest scoring game this season. That's the 2nd highest scoring playoff game in Texas high school football history. UIL 11, man. It was, like I said, Friday night, you got what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I think no matter what, you got what you wanted. If you wanted chalk, you got some chalk. If you want some chaos, you got some chaos.
You even had games like Pearland and Dickinson going in 5 overtimes.
I toyed with that to be our game of the week.
Live on Dave Campbell's Texan Live.
But another game that was our live on Dave Campbell's Texan Live was our game of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Klein Kane 50, Bridgeland 49.
We were monitoring both of these at the same time, and it was straight chaos.
So, something that maybe, if you take a at first glance, you may not realize. Bridgeland was up 24-0 midway through the second quarter.
Oh, it looked like church.
This game was over. Mm-hmm. This was one-way traffic. But Kane scores twice before halftime to pull it within 24-14. And then it gets into this firefight back and forth. They end up going to overtime. Bridgeland gets the ball. They score. No problem. Kane gets the ball. They score in overtime. And Coach James Clancy says, you know what? I'm feeling a little saucy. 1 play for your season. They go for 2. And Darius Rogers takes it in for the game winner. 50-49. Cojones. I love it. I'm of the opinion that if you have 1 play to win it, you should take that play. Mm-hmm. And they have that play. They dial it up. Especially.
It was executed to perfection, too. It really was.
Little zone read keeper. He's in. Incredible. No, I'm sorry. It was, yeah. That what was zone read keeper? I don't know. Zone read. I don't know if the quarterback or the running back got it. I know it was.
Oh, I can't remember.
I know it was Darius Rogers who scored. So, what a win for Klein Kane. I had a guy text me before that game. They said, "What do you think, Klein Kane and Bridgeland?" I said, "I like Bridgeland, but it's really close." Mm-hmm. So I was half right. Game of the week. Am I overreacting? Is Texas in trouble without Jonathan Brooks?
Absolutely. Okay. Trouble's a steep word. Mm-hmm. They definitely are in trouble when it comes to being multiple at that point.
They like C.J. Baxter a lot, and they're gonna ride him. You're gonna probably see more Jadon Blue.
Is Quinn Ewers gonna be back next week?
That's the question, right? You know,
because if they're without Quinn and Jonathan Brooks,
Well, he played this week. He played okay.
Yeah.
Will he be healthier? They'll need more from John. They'll need a fully healthy Quinn Ewers. They'll need a fully healthy Quinn Ewers. And they're better than Iowa State. To be clear, they're better than Iowa State. They're better than Texas Tech. But then you get to a Big 12 title game. Jonathan Brooks was decidedly their very best offensive weapon.
Yes.
Most consistent, at least. They will need to find a way to do without the 2020 Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year. It's time for Dude Rock Dude of the Week. Hashtag Dudes Rock. It's for the dude who rocked the most. And it's a landscape of dudes. We look across the dudiverse to find the dude who rocked the most and give him our hashtag Dudes Rock Dude of the Week.
I cannot believe you just said dudiverse.
Pickle, let's go back to Perryton. Perryton quarterback Cooper Schilling goes 31 of 40 for 462 yards and 7 touchdowns passing in their big upset win over Fort Stockton. Cooper Schilling, check your rosters, folks, a freshman. A freshman going for 462 and 7 in a playoff game. Perryton quarterback Cooper Schilling, our hashtag Dudes Rock Dude of the Week. Now it's time for Tepper's Play of the Week. A lot of good options here. A lot of good options. A number of them on Dave Campbell's Texan Live, but this one's going to come to us from the Permian Basin. Midland Legacy had a big win. Everything was working for them. So much so that even their wide receiver, Breck Stevens, decided to show off in our Play of the Week. That's pretty good. Breck Stevens, Midland Legacy wide receiver.
That's a grown man catch.
Little triple tip drill touchdown catch as Midland Legacy romps into the area round. That's our Play of the Week. Quick break for a hot take. We're headed for an all-Texas AAC title game. Okay? Now, there's still work to do. I understand people are going to say, but Tepper. What are you talking about, dude? I'm here to tell you that I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get UTSA and SMU in the AAC title game. Now, there's one game that is going to really stand in the way, like pretty clearly, and that is UTSA finishes the year at Tulane. I think the way UTSA is playing right now, I think they can go on the road and beat Tulane, and that would set up, more than likely, assuming UTSA also beats USF this week, and SMU goes on the road to Memphis. Not easy. On the road to Memphis and get to win before they take on a Navy team that's meh. I think we're going to get an all-AAC title game between UTSA and SMU, and that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
So, there's your hot take. Time for the Huh of the Week.
Perplexed.
Cedar Hill 66, Pflugerville Weiss 0.
We literally thought that the app was wrong. We're sitting there trying to update scores throughout the night, and we're like,
and that does happen, by the way. Sometimes
it's user generated. Yeah. I mean, it's not 100%.
Somebody puts in the wrong score. Sometimes we got jokesters, which we will find you. Sometimes we got jokesters. I thought so too. Like that popped across my screen, and I go, "Oh, that's backwards."
Yeah. Yes.
That was my first thought. Oh, that's backwards.
And it was like, okay, someone go to Twitter and let's get to verifying this.
But now, so first of all, give a lot of credit, I think, to Nick Ward and Cedar Hill, who have very clearly figured things out after a very, very slow start, right? This is a Cedar Hill program that started off, what were they, 0-5? No, 1-4. Mm-hmm. 1-4. But then, kind of woke up. And things have been trending in a positive direction. They've now won 5 of their last 6. But for Weiss, remember, this was a team that was flirting with the top 10.
Yeah.
Just a couple of weeks ago, they come out of the open date. They're undefeated. They're 8-0 going into their open date. Come out of the open date. They kind of get drilled by Midway. Mm-hmm. Now, that was a weird game. It was on the road. They played it late that night because that was the night the weather came through.
Yep, big
and
weather.
I think they were like, oh, we don't want to we don't want to drive back Saturday. We'll stay here. Midway was surging. Okay, you could maybe give him a mulligan. Now, I mean,
the train just completely fell off
I
the
have
tracks.
no idea what happened.
I
have no idea what happened.
Completely fell off the tracks.
That is undisputedly your hunt of the week. Now it's time for the wild stat of the week. Pickle, let me tell you about a happening down in 2A Division 2.
Okay.
Okay? Let me tell you about happening down in 2A Division 2. You had 2 by-district games going on in 2A Division 2.
Mm-hmm.
You had Fall City taking on Iola.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Lovelady taking on Price Carlisle.
Number 5 lady.
Okay. So let's go to Fall City and Iola. Fall City gets a nice win. Fall City, coached by once and future coach Mark Kiroff, down there at Fall City. Iola, coached by Rex Sharp, who took over in the offseason, took over that job. Veteran coach takes over. Mark Kiroff versus Rex Sharp. At Lovelady, the head coach at Lovelady is Will Kiroff. The head coach at Price Carlisle is Connor Sharp.
That's funny.
So you had 2 families playing one another in 2 different games. Okay? You had father versus father, Mark Kiroff versus Rex Sharp, and you had son versus son, Will Kiroff versus Connor Sharp.
It's really cool that it worked out father, son, rather than having like son and father like cross-check each other.
Son.
Yeah, like that's really cool.
For what it's worth, the Kiroffs won both games, so I do not think the Sharp family will be sending them a Christmas card.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, there's your wild stat of the week. It's now time for our most treasured segment.
Correct.
The Matt Step, he got that dog in him, player of the week.
And now, the Matt Step. He got that dog in him. Player of the week.
What's up, y'all? Matt Stepp, Dave Campbell's Texas Football here at Del Mar Stadium, watching Bay City and North Forest in the first round of the high school football playoffs, and I got Decaney and Conroe Oak Ridge on my tablet. Shout out Texan Live. But I'm here to bring you the winner of the Bi-District Playoff. Matt Stepp, he got that dog in him award winner, and that is none other than Bay City wide receiver Zylan Williams, who had not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdown catches tonight in Bay City's win over North Forest. Congratulations, Zylan. You, sir, have got that dog in you.
This has been the Matt Stepp He Got That Dog in Him Player of the Week.
Thank you, Matt Stepp, for that courageous report. And congratulations to the Matt Stepp. He got that dog in him, player of the week.
I don't know if local man is the perfect description of him or like the worst description of him because he kind of bounces around a lot, but
he's local wherever he is.
I was just going to say he's accepted by all communities.
You have my attention, Lake Travis. So a weird thing happened. I don't know if you paid a ton of attention to this game. I obviously did. I was on the call with Craig Way. One of the questions coming into the game was a quarterback for Lake Travis. Quarterback Caden Leone had been hurt, dealing with an ankle injury that he suffered against Dripping Springs. They turned to Chasten Ditta, the backup quarterback, who, solid. They don't ask him to do everything that they would ask Caden Leone to do, but he stepped in and he performed admirably. So we didn't know coming into the game. Actually, I'll tell you now, Lake Travis coach Hank Carter actually listed Caden Leone as questionable. When we asked him information, he sent us a depth chart, and he said, Caden Leone, questionable. Mm-hmm. Coaches usually don't do that in the high school ranks.
No.
You have to do that in the NFL and stuff like that. Like, there's rules about that. But they did not list him as they didn't have to say anything. He could have just lied to us. Mm-hmm. But he was listed as questionable. We come to find out that Chasten Ditta's going to start. But Caden Leone's going to play receiver. Caden Leone catches 12 passes for 175 yards. And a touchdown. The only touchdown that they scored on the night. He was undisputedly a game breaker for them. Going up against a very good Vandergrift defense. And Vandergrift didn't have an answer for him, plain and simple. And the defense stood on its head against a high-octane Vandergrift attack. They're going to be favored every game until they play Westlake in a regional final. And for a team that we had big questions about, suddenly they look like a team you do not want to see.
It almost makes you wonder what took so long.
I don't know.
Like, why did that click, and if it worked to perfection, what took so long to get to that point?
Sometimes, it's genius is the product of necessity, right?
Yeah.
Get excited for Houston, Lamar, and Fort Bend Ridgepoint. It is time to start paying attention to what the Texans are doing. Houston, Lamar is serious business. They're not just like a team that beats up on Houston ISD teams. They get a huge test this week against a very powerful Fort Bend Ridgepoint attack. Keep an eye on this one, Houston, Lamar, and Fort Bend Ridgepoint. Final thought. Let's tweak the first-round home field advantage rules. Okay? So if you don't know, 6A and 5A, the higher-seeded team has the option of having home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs. Okay? The higher-seeded team can take it, and almost everyone does. Right? If you can host a playoff game, host a playoff game. You should do it. It's great. I think it's too broad. I think that we need to limit that exclusively to district champions. Because I think that would give, I think it's twofold. One, I think that it doesn't necessarily give a ton of, like, a third-place team who played a fourth-place team in the first round of the playoffs in the 6A, right? Mm-hmm. Just because of the way things break. I don't know if that should necessarily be rewarded. And it does something that I've long been a proponent of, which is to incentivize the district championship. I think we should dial it back. This is my thought. Dial it back and allow only district champions to have home field advantage.
Yeah, that feels right. Because I feel like there's a lot of teams. Obviously, everyone wants the trophy, but that would help. I think so. I do think that.
I think it would help to incentivize. There's already an incentive. We can make that incentive even more and make it so that the district championship really means something.
Not the worst idea.
It's my final thought, and that's Monday Morning Fallout. We're Texas Football Today. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com, talking football in the Lone Star State. You can follow us on Twitter at DCTF, like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's, and, of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. Coming up here in just a moment, we will talk to the head coach of a team that just won their first playoff game in nearly 60 years. Coach Miles Robison of Shepherd will join us. But first, a word from these valued products.
I feel like bustin' loose, bustin' loose. Come on, get on up. Oh yeah, get on up. Bustin' loose when you wanna sing. Bustin' loose, baby, do your thing. Talking about bustin' loose, yeah.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Potter, Executive Director of Be Well Texas. Too many people are struggling alone these days, and alcohol and drug deaths are increasing. We started Be Well Texas to offer high-quality, science-based addiction treatment and recovery services anywhere, even at home. We provide compassionate, caring support virtually or in person. In many cases, there is no cost for treatment if you don't have insurance. Really. Welcome to Be Well Texas. We're glad you're here.
Wing is the largest residential drone delivery provider in the world, delivering to your home in less than 30 minutes. Order using an app just like other popular delivery services, and Wing's automated drone takes care of the rest. It's fast, safe, and sustainable, and it's now delivering to parts of Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. You can learn more at wing.com/TexasFootball. Again, that's wing.com/TexasFootball.
Born and bred in Texas hits a little different, as it should. Texas loves doing business with fellow Texans. VCR Now takes its Texas roots as seriously as its many partnerships with schools and universities around the state. It's also why we're so proud to promote our brand in the pages of the Texas Bible, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and on the airwaves of Texas Football Today. Driven by producing quality broadcast video, state-of-the-art audio, and LED video scoreboards at affordable prices, VCR Now makes sure to listen to your needs in its athletic department before recommending the next best steps. Building great products is our business, and it's our focus on building meaningful, long-term partnerships with our clients that sets us apart. From our 24/7, 365-day help desk, the training lab in our hometown of Red Oak, or our sports marketing business plan that puts money back in the hands of our athletic departments we support, VCR Now is built to last. Reach out to us today at info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW. Again, that's info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW.
Back here on Texas Football Today. Pickle, let's go to the hotline. It's been a minute since we talked some football in San Jacinto County, but there's a big story to talk about. We're joined by the head coach of the area round-bound Shepherd Pirates, Coach Miles Robison. Coach, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much. How are things in Shepherd?
Well, they're really good right now. It's an exciting time here in Shepherd.
You guys go take on Kirbyville, a district champion Kirbyville, and come away with an impressive victory. Not just because you knocked off a district champion, but because of what it meant for this team. You guys, your first playoff win in program history since 1967. What was the feeling? What was the reaction? What was the scene like there in Lufkin when you guys were able to run out the clock?
Well, it was kind of a surreal feeling, going into the season. I think we brought back 3 starters on each side of the ball, so we started out the season with a lot of puzzle pieces trying to fit them in place. And I'm tell you what, our kids have really played well the last few weeks. And it was a wet, soggy night in Lufkin, and tell you what, we didn't feel it. We were super excited.
Coach, you mentioned that you guys have played great ball the past couple of weeks. I go back to your open date. Okay, you guys, you have a week 9 open date, and at that point, you guys are sitting at 2-5, 3-5. You guys are sitting at 3-5. Okay, and you need to win your final 2 games to get into the playoffs, including going on the road to Cold Spring Oakhurst, a place you're very familiar with, to get a win. What changed? What happened in that open date that has you guys now just flying so high?
I thought, the week that we played Woodville, we started showing some promise. We turned the ball over quite a bit, but we made some improvements offensively. But then when we played Westwood and even into Diboll, we started getting a little bit better and better. And we had that off week to kind of prepare. And I tell you what, our kids aren't the biggest. They're not the most athletic kids, but they're tough. And they've responded well all year. And against that Cold Springs team, we knew we'd be underdogs going into it, and we knew our backs were against the wall. And we just felt, that we had a good game plan together, and our kids responded well, and they've really taken care of business the last few weeks.
Miles Robison, head coach of Shepherd, join us here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation in hashtag TF Today. Okay, Coach, was the team aware? Were people around the program aware that it had been nearly 60 years since Shepherd had won a playoff game?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of hometown people or people that have stayed since those times. My dad was actually in Cold Spring at the time and played against those Shepherd teams. And my grandfather was superintendent over here, but the last coach that was here was Gary Korn, and he is a legend in Shepherd. And I think he actually lives in Franklin now, so he's a supporter of the Lions as well. And Coach Fannin and I have talked this week about how much Mr. Korn has meant to both our communities.
Oh, what
it is pretty amazing.
That's pretty cool because the last time they won a playoff game, he was the head coach back in 1967. Now you guys are making your own brand of history. This is a team that's obviously playing their best football right now, but it's hard not to focus on what Preston Stevens is doing, your running back, who has been unbelievable. What is it about him? What that makes him special that has you guys playing this way right now?
He's an unselfish kid. He loves the game. That's the thing nowadays with a lot of kids. They play, but they really don't love it. Preston loves it. He just embraces every moment. And if he messes up, he's going to go harder the next down. He takes off season seriously. We watched him in middle school and knew he could be special. He had some injuries as a freshman, but as a sophomore, he grew. And this year, he's kind of really taken over the team. And our offensive linemen were just giving him a little bit of heck because, he gets a lot of the recognition. And they're like, he's got to take them out to dinner because those guys have been blocking their ears off for him.
This is a team, one of the other things that makes this team so remarkable is you guys lost a pretty special senior class from last year's team.
We did.
You guys
were talented.
If you go back and look at in the 2023 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, you guys lose 18 lettermen, which at your level is shocking.
Yeah.
What have you seen from the youngsters that has not only the present so exciting, but also the future?
The other day when we were making our playoff roster, I think I counted 7 returners from last year's playoff roster.
Jeez.
So I tell you, we have a lot of freshmen that have stepped up. We started 5 freshmen the other night. 2 of them played both ways. And I think the senior class, there's not a lot of them, but they're just unselfish kids. They don't care who gets the credit. They play banged up. They play hard. And it's just carried down through the other classes. And they just want to represent, the community in town each night that they go out. And that's one thing we stress. Even though we're not the biggest, we can have, we can be tough, and, you can't measure the size of a kid's heart.
The other, you mentioned the seniors, and they are relatively few and far between. You guys are running a youth group over there, but I want to talk a little bit about your senior linebacker, Sheldon Ferguson, a guy who's leading the defense that has really come on strong of late. For all we talk about Preston Stevens in that running game, the defense has come on strong. How important has Sheldon Ferguson been to what you guys do defensively?
He's just what you want. You think of the old school linebackers, and that's what he's about. He's a tough kid. He broke his hand a few weeks ago. He just refuses to sit out. He plays with a big club on his arm, and he's got good instincts, and he's just tough. He's around the ball all the time, and he makes plays when you need a kid to make plays.
Miles Robison, the head coach of the Shepherd Pirates, join us here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TF Today. Coach, we mentioned that you guys had not won a playoff game since 1967. The last time you guys won 2 playoff games in a season is, I'm checking my notes here, never.
Never.
So an opportunity to make even more history. It won't come easy. You guys get the two-time defending champs, the Franklin Lions. You get you take them on Friday at Yates Stadium in Willis. I'm not going to ask you to give away your game plan, but when you take a look at what you guys are up against on Friday, what do you see?
Oh, we see a well-coached program, an established program. Coach Fannin, it does a great job. They have a ton of kids that can play football. It's just a traditional program, a powerhouse program, and we're excited to play those guys and see what our kids can do. We're a little banged up right now. We're trying to get healthy before Friday, but our kids are excited, and like I said, we've been underdog the last few weeks, and nothing's going to change. We're going to go over there and see if we can battle the Franklin Lions and see if we can make history again.
And finally, Coach, I do have to ask you about the celebration on the field, with the team and stuff like that. But I know that the family was fired up as well. What was the celebration like in the Robison household after this one?
It was great. My wife is my biggest supporter, and I tell you, every game, after every game, I look forward to my daughter coming onto the field, and that's what it's about. It's about family. It's about community, and that's why, Shepherd is a special place. The fans support us regardless, and, we did it for them. We did it for our community, and we're just proud to be, where we are right now.
He's Miles Robison. He's the head coach of the area round-bound Shepherd Pirates. Coach, we sure appreciate your time. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us on. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Yes, sir.
There he goes. Miles Robison, head coach at Shepherd. Join us here. I mean, to go since 1967. It's been 56 years since they've won a playoff game. Okay? They were like, I think they were like 0-11, 0-12 in that time. They haven't made the playoffs a whole ton, but when they have, you start looking up and down, and it's like thanks for coming. You know what I mean?
Right.
They get blasted by Silsby, or they get they get beat by, Crockett, right? Teams down there in that
I was
southeast part of the.
say it's a tough region of the state in that classification.
That's the problem.
Every year.
That's one of the issues. The issues is that 3A is so loaded down there between Brazos Valley, Piney Woods, Golden Triangle, and Shepherd usually draws a team like Kirbyville, who's like a district champion and rolling, right? But what a remarkable win for them, really and truly. And he mentioned they've been underdogs all year long. The computer, that game against Cold Spring Oakhurst, which basically they had to beat Huntington in the final week to truly clinch their playoff spot. They were 22-point underdogs against Cold Spring Oakhurst on the road.
Keep doing it.
They're going to be underdogs this week against Franklin. But you know what?
Like he said, go out there and try to make history again.
Ain't stopped them yet. They might build a Miles Robison statue if they win this game on Friday night.
If they beat Franklin, they should build a Miles Robeson statue.
Yeah, we might do a GoFundMe around here for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we appreciate Miles Robeson joining us to talk a little Pirates football. We're Texas Football Today. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com, talking football in the Lone Star State. You can follow us on Twitter at DCTF, like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's, and of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. Coming up here in just a moment, Jimbo Fisher, now unemployed. We'll talk about it. But first, let's find out who's up for the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Week award.
Dave Campbell's Texas Football, in conjunction with the TaxAct Texas Bowl, is proud to give the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Week award, presented by Kroger, to the most deserving high schooler in the state of Texas. Each week, TexasFootball.com announces 10 candidates for that week's award based on the previous week's on-field performance. Congratulations to this week's 10 nominees. Fans, be sure to vote for the player you believe should be the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Week at TexasFootball.com. Voting closes Friday at noon, with the winner announced shortly after on TexasFootball.com. Thanks to Kroger and the TaxAct Texas Bowl for their continued support of Texas high school football and the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Week award.
Back here on Texas Football Today, and normally on the Monday after the first round of the Texas high school football playoffs, we're talking nothing but playoff football. Nothing but high school football.
As you should.
There was a small bit of news from the outpost of College Station, Texas, as Texas A&M has parted ways with their head football coach, Jimbo Fisher, after 5+ seasons. It won't be 6 full seasons. It'll be 5+ seasons. And it is worth going back and remembering how we got here. 2018, after the 2017 season, Kevin Sumlin is fired at Texas A&M. And immediately, you weren't here, but immediately there was all this chatter that, hey, A&M's going to go hire Florida State's head coach. They're going to go hire Jimbo Fisher.
Which he was cooking at that point.
I remember thinking, that doesn't sound right. Like, why? Now, I came to find out, A, obviously it was true, and B, one of the reasons was that things had kind of soured there in Tallahassee. He had taken them to that national championship game.
With Jameis
Winston. National championship with Jameis Winston. And then you remember they made the playoff the next year, too. Lost to Oregon, I think, in the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
But this is a guy who, when he was hired, I went on Paul Feinbaum's show and said what a seismic hire this was. Because it was. Because this was just the second time that the state of Texas, a team in the state of Texas, had hired a coach with a FBS national championship. The other guy was when UTSA hired Larry Coker. And now that, I think we can all agree, very different situation.
Yes.
He was hired at UTSA to help get that program off the ground. He was kind of a caretaker, and then he did the thing and stepped away.
Yes.
That was always the plan. Jimbo Fisher was brought in because we're going to go get a gun for hire. And they compensated him like a gun for hire. And I remember the first time hearing about the guaranteed contract, which is what that's the only thing people are going to remember.
Yes.
is the guaranteed contract. They gave him a massive, fully guaranteed contract. And
which was wild at the time and is still wild now. And he could have went on to have 10 years of success, and I still think it would have been a wild contract.
It was made even, you're absolutely right, and it was made even more wild in 2020.
Yes.
When they re-signed him and extended him because they thought LSU was going to come and grab him. This was coming off 2020, which was by far their best year.
Yep.
Went 9-1, finished number 4 in the nation.
And that was when LSU went and won 2019 and then spit the bit in 2020.
Yes, absolutely. He was a guy who signed a 10-year, $95 million contract in 2021. Fully guaranteed. Fully guaranteed. So why is he being fired? Well, if to hear Ross Bjork, their athletic director, say it, he did a press conference yesterday. He said the program was stuck in neutral. Quote, the assessment that I delivered was that we were not reaching our full potential. We were not in the championship conversation, and something was not quite right about the direction and the plan. We should be relevant on the national scene, end quote. It's Ross Bjork. And he's right. Since 2020, which we'll probably do something in the offseason about from both the high school and the college perspective of 2020 and how much stock we should put into that year because there's a lot of outliers. Since then, the last 3 seasons, they're 19-15. They have lost 9 straight road games. They have not won away from Kyle Field. And I think what made this year particularly difficult for the power brokers, and I don't mean Ross Bjork, I mean the power brokers, the power brokers in College Station, is that it feels like this is as close as you're going to get.
Yep.
You get Alabama at home. I think a wounded Alabama team, probably one of the more mediocre Alabama teams that we'll see
Which
by
still
Alabama
means
standards.
that they're in the upper echelon.
Of course. You get them at home, and you can't seal the deal.
No. Especially after they're not considered a rival at this specific moment, but when your longtime rival just did it in Tuscaloosa literally the 2 weeks before.
You go to Tennessee. It's not a great Tennessee team.
No.
They just got blasted in the sun by Missouri.
Which says enough.
Says enough. As a Mizzou grad, allow me to tell you, that says enough. You can't win there. Then you take on Ole Miss. This is a good Ole Miss team, but it's not an invincible Ole Miss team. And Lane Kiffin loves to poke the bear.
I was just going to say, if someone that will not let you forget it after you leave the locker room that night, it's going to be Lane Kiffin.
And I think at that point, they looked around and they said, all right, what else could we possibly give him that is going to get them to the national championship stage? Now, remember, that is the goal. We need to be very clear. When Texas State hired G.J. Kinney, okay? They're going to go out there and say we want to contend for a national championship. Realistically,
they want to get
within
to a
the program, that is not the goal. At least not right now and probably not for the next couple of years.
No.
Right? That's not the goal. At A&M, there's no reason they cannot be contending for national championships. And furthermore, there's no reason that this roster cannot contend for national championships. That number 1 class, the greatest recruiting class of all time, this is the second year with them. And you're going to go 7-5.
That's that's my thing is we talk a lot about unrealistic expectations between a lot of programs, and I think we had that whole conversation about Texas before they hired Sark of, okay, you had the exact same record over the last 9 years as Arizona State. Like, how...
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you? And with A&M, have they ever really been in the competition for a national championship?
They were in 2020.
In 2020 they were. But if we're talking program-wide, I feel like there's still some unrealistic expectations. That being said, those expectations have become more of a reality in the past 3 years than they have at any other point in time in A&M's history because of this class.
Let's make no bones about it. Jimbo Fisher was given everything he could possibly need to succeed. The facilities at A&M are shocking. I haven't been to Alabama. I haven't been to Georgia. I have been to A&M. I have a hard time believing there are finer facilities in America, or at least 5 better facilities in America. They paid him. They paid his staff. They backed up the NIL truck. The recruiting, you brought in incredible recruits. For the entire time he's been there. The recruiting's never been the issue for Jimbo Fisher. No. Recruiting's never been the issue.
It's player development.
The issue is the product on the field. And at some point, you are responsible for the product on the field.
Especially after this amount of time.
Exactly right. It's been this is year 6. And it is a pretty remarkable fall, because this was a guy that was supposed to be the savior. He was supposed to be the guy who brought A&M finally to glory. The thing that A&M was always missing was the right coach, and he was the right coach. They got everything else. It is also impossible to separate the team down the road from this with Texas, because Texas is nationally relevant, and
fixing to be
they're about
right
to be in your kitchen.
Yep.
It is impossible to separate that.
Even from a recruiting perspective too. You're in the hotbed. Both of them are. One's got to have the advantage.
And for A&M, for the past 10 years, they've had the SEC recruiting thing that they can.
Oh, look, here's the logo.
They can use the hammer.
Yep.
With the SEC hammer. Now, that's no longer special. It's no longer unique within the state of Texas, and I think that's important too. It is now. Jimbo Fisher is going to get paid. He will make. I believe it's something like he's owed, $10 million right out of the chute. He's owed. He's owed $19.2 million within 60 days. And then he's owed $7.2 million annually through 2031. It is the biggest buyout in college football history by a factor of about 6.
Dude.
But you do not draw up that contract unless you understand the downside. I understand that there's people out there who want to make dumb Aggie jokes. They ain't dumb. Those are smart people. And they understood what they were getting into. And they knew that was the cost of doing business. And they said, if we have to pay that cost, we will pay that cost. And they did. Now, the line will form to the left to take over this A&M job. Because, again, facilities, recruiting, geography, everything lines up for this to be one of the best jobs in America. That's not an overstatement. This is one of the best jobs in America. And they obviously will compensate you. They just did with Jimbo Fisher. So who are they going to go after? If you go on TexasFootball.com, Mike Craven's got a list of potential candidates for Texas A&M. One of the ones that you're going to hear a lot of is Mike Elko. Mike Elko is the head coach at Duke. Mike Elko was the former defensive coordinator at Texas A&M, and they won 9 games in 2022 at Duke. That's what?
That's a basketball school.
He helped to build this roster right now. There is going to be talk that he can step in and immediately hit the ground running. So here's the thing. Duke's a private school. We don't know how much he makes. USA Today reported they made $2.1 million in 2022. They extended him, so my guess is he's making about $4 million. Money ain't going to be an issue. That's doable. You could call Lane Kiffin. It'd be exciting. It'd be fun. The offense would hum. He can recruit. He's won. It would be very interesting. And the other thing is that he is notoriously flirtatious with other jobs. He doesn't want to stay in Ole Miss.
No.
He coached in the NFL. He coached at USC. He coached at Tennessee. He's got big program experience.
Incredibly on brand to go from the largest buyout in college football history and then hire Lane Kiffin. That seems like if we're reading trend lines of things that wouldn't shock me, that's one of them.
Offensive whiz.
Yep.
Offensive whiz.
Which is what they've been lacking the whole time under Jimbo Fisher.
I'm going to get to the wild cards before I get to the two options that I would look at.
Okay.
One kind of aspirational and one realistic. The wild cards, Urban Meyer.
He's in the running for every available Power 5 job in America.
If you believe that the problem is you hired the wrong national champion head coach, you go get Urban Meyer. Now, perhaps Urban Meyer is a scumbag.
Point blank.
But if he brings you a national championship, who cares? Obligatory Deion Sanders reference.
Again, it's splashy.
He can recruit.
He's
splashy.
Him and Lane Kiffin are playing on the same battlefield.
Now, I think a lot of the luster is worn off after a really hot start.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about an immediate splash hire that would put you nationally relevant immediately, there's a guy. I don't think they're going to hire Deion Sanders.
No.
I'll go out there on a limb and say that. Clip this when they hire Deion Sanders. Here's the two names that I'm interested in, most interested in. One is, I think, a big swing, as he puts on TexasFootball.com. And one is, I think, doable. The big swing is Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning's the head coach at Oregon. Oregon's probably going to win the Pac-12.
The Forgotten Four.
He's probably going to win the Pac-12. He made his name as defense coordinator for Georgia. He is one of the very best young coaches in college football. And they're about to make the move to the Big Ten, and maybe you see if he's not into the Big Ten and he wants to get back to the SEC. Dan Lanning's one. The other option is Jeff Traylor. Now, Jeff Traylor he's contending for his third straight conference championship. He's a winner. If you want to go full on, seal the borders Texas, he's the guy. Is that too much of a leap to go from last year he was coaching in Conference USA's championship game to next year he's coaching to 2 years later he's coaching the SEC? Is that too big of a leap? They can certainly afford him. They can they can certainly afford him. He's got if you are of the belief that the problem at A&M is that Fisher didn't cozy up enough to the Texas High School Coaches Association, Jeff Traylor is an instant fix. An instant fix. It kind of a lot of this hire comes down to what you think the problem is. If you think the problem is that you hired the wrong national champion head coach, then you go hire Urban Meyer. If you think the problem is that you need a guy who knows modern day offense and he knows the SEC, then you go hire Lane Kiffin. If you need a guy who understands A&M and has that background there, and also has been a successful head coach, you go get Mike Elko. If you need Texas, you go hire Jeff Traylor. And if you want the defensive guru SEC guy, you go get Dan Lanning. The question is the Rorschach test on what you think is wrong, what you think is missing at this A&M program.
And as much as we can sit there and answer what we think is wrong, it's all going to come down to who opens their checkbook.
It all comes down to the power brokers.
Yep.
Ross Bjork is part of that. John Sharp, their chancellor, is part of that.
But they're definitely not the only contributing factors.
The donors are part of that.
Are the main part of that.
Wild times. Jimbo
It is
Fisher.
fun because there's so many good viable options. Like that, it makes it fun.
And you will not find somebody they can have. Here's who they cannot hire. Okay? Here's who would say no to this job. Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm.
Kirby Smart. Probably Jim Harbaugh, although he'd love to get out of Michigan right now.
Do you think Dabo?
Dabo would not say no to this job.
I don't think
I don't
so
think
either.
Dabo Swinney would say no to this job, but I don't think
he's
A&M.
in the
I
position.
don't think
No,
A&M would.
I
want
don't
to
either.
get him. No. The list of people who would say no to A&M is extremely short.
What do you think about Sarkisian? Do you think
all-time heel turn?
Do you think he would say
my
no?
gosh.
Let me be very clear. I don't think there's a chance in hell that happens.
Absolutely not.
That being said,
Absolutely not.
I'm just saying a hypothetical here. Do you think Steve Sarkisian would turn down A&M if they backed up the Brinks truck?
I don't.
to him?
I think he would. I think he would turn down A&M. I think he's pretty well taken care of at Texas.
Yeah.
I think he'd turn down A&M. He's on that list for other reasons.
He's
right?
hoping he would be hoping that they would, because then Del Conte would open up the Brinks truck.
Absolutely. Anyway, it'll be fun times. We'll have you covered on TexasFootball.com. Let's go over to Ashley Pickle for America's second favorite segment. Final thoughts.
If you missed any, here's the big one. If you were looking for playoff matchups this week, please go to TexasFootball.com/playoffs. We have all of the brackets updated. We have all of the game times and locations, everything. I have people all the time asking me, hey, what's the best game around? Blah, blah, blah. Go and you can search for your area and you can see the exact time and date of all the games, but a ton of really good games coming up this weekend. But if you need it, TexasFootball.com/playoffs is your hub for everything.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbells. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbells. And, of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. Thanks again to Miles Robison, head coach of the Shepherd Pirates, for being our guest. For Ashley Pickle, I'm Greg Tepper. Vince Young, please give me your Player of the Year trophy. We'll see you tomorrow on Texas Football Today.